let's talk about Green Lantern. So, the Lantern controversy has been an interesting one. But before we get to that, so the DCU is creating a Lanterns TV show. So far, according to reports, this TV show is going to star the characters of Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Now, I was already a little off by this because they were saying that it was going to be an older Hal Jordan and a very much younger, John Stewart. And that, to me, that dynamic didn't really work too well for me. I was like, nah, man, like John Stewart's a grown man. He a grown man, like, now don't get me wrong. You could have a Hal Stewart who's experienced as a Green Lantern and a John Stewart who's a grown man and is just new to having these new alien powers. Okay, that's fine. But having a much younger, I didn't like that. I just didn't really work too well for me, especially based off of how the character's been depicted in cartoons and comics, etc. Right? So we found out that Kyle Chandler was going to become the new Hal Jordan. Okay, cool, whatever. I mean, he doesn't really move the needle for me. He's all right. Liked him in Friday Night Lights. He's an okay. Listen, insert generic actor here. Fine, whatever. Then we found out that there was a race. There was a contest between two people for the role of John Stewart, and it was going to be between Stephen James, who was in Race, and Aaron Pierre, who was in Rebel Ridge. All right. Now I told y'all before I didn't like either one of them. I didn't really want either one of them for this role for different reasons. If you want to know, go back and watch my other video where I explain that. But we got an answer. We got an answer of who is now our new John Stewart, and the winner is Aaron Pierre. So let me first say very clearly, unequivocally, congratulations to Aaron Pierre. Okay? I am extremely happy for him personally of landing this role. This brother is very talented. I saw him in the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I thought he was solid. This brother was very good, exceptionally good in Rebel Ridge. He carried the movie on his own, even though I hated Don Johnson, but he did his role too. He can do action. He can do drama. The brother is talented. Okay. So I am extremely happy for him. I'm proud of him. And I'm wishing him the best in this role. I am going out of my way to make sure I watch this as well, because this is something that I am interested in as well. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. So yours truly went online and I said, hey, I'm happy for this brother. Congrats. I love it. But I'm a little disappointed. Just a little. Because my brother's very light. And what I mean by light, he's a fair-skinned black man. And John Stewart has traditionally been portrayed as a darker-skinned character. So I made it a point to just point out the fact that, hey, while this is a good thing for him individually, it does play into the whole colorism that still exists in Hollywood. And let me be very clear. The colorism is a blind spot for many people. So what I'm not saying James Gunn is racist and he only likes light-skinned black people. That is not what E-Man is saying. That's not what I'm saying. Because Stephen James was up there too, right? What I am saying is that in the industry as a whole, there has been a long track record of favoring lighter-skinned black people for roles over darker-skinned actors. So, is James Gunn some evil guy because he cast this light-skinned black man? No. He went through the casting process. I'm sure he earned his fine. But that doesn't mean that blind spots don't exist. Now, I'm going to take a little time to kind of talk to some people that don't really understand what colorism really is, because I understand this is more, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist anywhere else, but I'm saying this is more of an African American issue. This is an issue that Black people in America have to deal with more than white people do, than than brown people do, than people that live outside the United States that don't really understand it. I get it. I was literally having a conversation with somebody on one of the socials, and they were like, "I don't understand. What are you talking about? Like, you know, you have actors all the time, Black actors all the time. I mean, you got Halle Berry, you have Will Smith, and then you have Sam Jackson, but they're all Black." And I'm like, "Ooh, those are not the same. Those are not the same." And Halle Berry, even that would be a comparison of an instance of colorism in Hollywood. Let me explain, because some people will be like, "Yo, E-Man, hold on now. Angela Bassett did audition for the role of Storm, and they passed her up, and they gave it to Halle after that." My question is, why was Halle even in the running? Why was she even in the running? You have an African character who's supposed to be darker skinned, and why would you even audition Halle Berry? Let me tell y'all something else, in case y'all didn't notice. Do you know who else auditioned for Storm back in the day? Mariah Carey. Now, I don't know how true that is, but what I'm saying is, if that is true, why are they even being considered? What business does Mariah Carey have with Storm from the X-Men at all? At all. Again, this is the industry thing. Let's look at X-Men 97. Bo DeMayo talked about how, y'all don't believe me. Hold on. Y'all don't. Just look at the evidence. Y'all know I got receipts. Y'all know this. Bo DeMayo, remember that chocolate sister Storm in X-Men 97? He said that he got pushback from Marvel for darkening their characters so much. This is what we talk about when we talk about colorism. Now, let me talk to the people who are not from the States. You're not from the US, or maybe you're white, maybe you're brown, maybe you don't understand the history behind this. Okay? Colorism has deep roots in American history. It originates from slavery. I know, slavery. But it continued ever since then through segregation and different forms of discrimination. It's basically the preferential treatment of lighter skinned individuals, and it permeates in different sectors of society, including Hollywood. Okay, so Hollywood is not exempt from this. Lighter skinned Black actors would usually be favored to do leading roles, while darker skinned actors face more barriers when it comes to like getting prominent roles in mainstream media. Let me give you another example, because again, y'all don't be believing me. Zoe Saldana. Do y'all remember Zoe Saldana, who was picked to play Nina Simone, which made no sense, because Nina Simone was a person who was of dark skin complexion. This is Nina Simone. This is Zoe Saldana. Why was she even considered for auditioning or even just getting the role? This is what I'm talking about. She was so light that they had to darken her skin just to look like Nina Simone. And later, she went off and she had to apologize. She had to apologize for this, because this was a blind spot. This is what I'm talking about. She did, for whatever reason, Zoe, who, I don't know, she got her own little issues with Blackness, but for whatever reason, she didn't realize that she had no business playing a darker skinned woman. And if you sit here and act like, "Oh man, but nobody else could play that," stop it. That's don't put that ignorance on display. There are plenty of dark skinned Black actresses who can sing, by the way, that would have been fantastic as Nina Simone. I forget the sister's name. She was in Orange is the New Black. She played Crazy Eyes. She would have killed that role. So, colorism is an issue that stems from white supremacy ideology. Now, listen to me carefully. White supremacy ideology is a mindset that does not mean you walk around with a white cover over your face and you part of the KKK. It's an ideology that lets you believe that whiteness is normal, that whiteness is the standard, that whiteness is the greatest, most beautiful thing, and anything that looks opposite to that is not okay. But colorism is basically saying, hey, the closer I get to whiteness, the better it is. So if you're light skinned, but you're not that dark skinned, that's more acceptable in comparison. That's where colorism comes from. So now that we got that out the way, I want to also address one of those comments that people say, well, black is black. Black is black. He's black. His parents are black. That's fine. And you're right. You're right. Black is black until it's not. And that's why colorism is a problem. Black is not black if all you do is pick light-skinned people. Then it's not black. And here's the thing. It would be true in the inverse as well. If Hollywood only picked dark-skinned black people and never showed nobody else, that would be colorism also. It goes both ways. But when the industry has shown a preferential historic trend of favoring lighter tones over darker tones, showing you like go back to the TV shows where whenever somebody was bringing in a beautiful woman, but it's the light-skinned one that's the real pretty girl, but the dark-skinned one is just the ugly friend that stays on the side. That's part of colorism. That again is part of the issue that black people have to juggle. Okay, this is not an issue that white people have to think about. This might not be an issue that some brown people have to think about. Black people have to think about it. Light-skinned folks have to think about it because they're getting vilified by dark-skinned folks, and dark-skins have to think about it because they're insecure because the history has told them that they were always lesser than. Again, this goes back decades, centuries. It's a mindset that's a problem with this. So black is black until it's not. So let's kind of leave that failed excuse away. And by the way, I already told y'all from the very beginning, I'm rooting for this brother. I'm rooting for everybody black. But that doesn't mean that we can't call out a systemic industry trend. Also, we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Okay? So I really want people to stop with this idea that we, especially as black folks, can only be emotionally one-dimensional. Guess what? As a black man, I'm allowed to be happy for this brother and disappointed in the industry that continues this trend. I can do both. Now, let me also kind of give some props, because while this is an industry issue, it is some positives out there. And let me bring y'all back to Amanda Steinberg. Now, y'all remember her from The Acolyte? Did you know that Amanda was actually going to be, or at least maybe auditioning to be, in Black Panther? Not only was she going to be in Black Panther, she was going for the role of Shuri. Shuri, who is now played by Letitia Wright. But she didn't do it. And listen to what she had to say. She said, I was in the audition process for Shuri. Then I decided not to continue with the process because I thought that it wouldn't be right for me as a biracial, light-skinned American to be playing the role. Steinberg added, I don't think visually it would have made sense, and it wasn't appropriate for me to go after that role. Black Panther is one of those only films that we have that has darker skin representation, and that is what's so beautiful about it. That's what Zoe Saldana should have said when she was even considering looking at that Nina Simone like thing. That's exactly what she should have been thinking. That's probably, and I love my girl Hallie. I love her. But that's probably what she should have thought too. Storm. Oh, let me see the comics. Wait a minute. This is a dark sister. Why y'all want me to do? you know what? Let's leave that to somebody else. So let me be very clear. I don't believe that lighter skinned Black actors need to just throw away opportunities and just say no. I don't think they need to do that. But I would say that it would be appreciated. It would be appreciated that if you got all these offers because you're that light-skinned beauty, and meanwhile, this other talented, dark-skinned, actor who's never been considered as a beauty, maybe they get a chance to that role. This is something that Viola Davis has talked about extensively. How she would talk about, she just wasn't attractive enough for certain roles. This is a beautiful woman. She is a beautiful, dark woman. But because of the standards and the mindset, she was never considered that way. That's colorism. A little racism. It stems from racism, but it's also colorism. Now, I know I probably lost some of y'all because this is getting too woke. It's getting way too woke up in here. And I know y'all don't like the wokeness. That's okay. Because I'm going to bring it back. Y'all know I come with the receipts. Let's talk about the comics. Because I've had some people come at me and be like, but man, haven't you seen John Stewart in the comics? This man was light-skinned back then. Well, sir, let me tell you something. Back in the day, and when I mean back in the day, I'm talking about like way back, 60s, 70s. Black characters, first of all, if they wasn't shucking and jiving or being a gangster or something else, the way that they were portrayed was light, very light brown, or if you happen to be very dark skinned, you were gray. Yeah, gray. That's the way Black people were portrayed when they were reading comics back in the day. You was either light skinned, light brown, or you were straight up gray. But John Stewart was a character. He was one of DC's first Black characters. The same way T'Challa was created to be an anti-stereotype. He wasn't a gangster. He wasn't this. He wasn't that. Like, he was an African king from an uncolonized, unenslaved, nation. He was smart. He was strong. He was everything that the other Black characters weren't, to try to elevate him. That's what John Stewart was supposed to be. The creator was Neil Adams. Rest in peace. I believe he just passed away last year. Neil Adams, a white man at that, a white guy, created John Stewart. And I'm not going to do the whole thing, but y'all know I come with receipts. So let's just look at one. Let's look at something. So that's Neil right there. Okay. Neil is on the left. And this man, I'm not going to play the whole thing about like the whole story of his creation. If you can, definitely go check it out. But I'm going to keep it on topic in terms of like how John Stewart looks. Because he was calling out DC's terrible representation with minority characters. They had Asian characters that were very stereotypically horrible. And their track record with Black characters was terrible as well. But listen to the creator of John Stewart in regards to John Stewart and how he looks. And y'all tell me if I'm being too woke with this or not.
He said, you do it. I said, fine, John Stewart. I colored John Stewart medium dark brown. Mm-hmm. Now, up to that point in comic books, if you ever read comic books, you couldn't read comic books in those days. Up to that point, Black people are colored light brown, like you.
Okay.
And
he don't look all that Black. I'm just saying. He just okay.
I colored him medium dark brown.
Yeah.
So head of production came to me, along with Julie Schwartz, and said, Neil, we noticed you colored this John Stewart guy kind of dark brown. I said, yeah. He said, well, are you sure you want them dark brown? Because generally when we do black people, we color them light brown. No, I think we're going to go with that. Well, you know, it's not going to take any. You could just change the numbers on the colors and it could be a light brown. I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it this way. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? I said, I'm pretty damn sure, guys, that we want to do that. And they said this, which is hard to believe in the context of today.
Yeah.
Sal Harrison said, are you sure black people won't be offended?
Oh. Wow.
I said, Sal, I think they've been offended for about 50 years.
Yeah.
There are people who have reasonable people that you remind them and they go, yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, that's one of the ways I won all my battles. I mean, Sal Harrison and Julie Schwartz admitted later on that I was totally 100% right.
And he's still right. And he's still right. Shout out to Neil Adams. Rest in peace. I see here that he passed in 2022. But that was the point. That was the point. John Stewart was created with the intention of representing darker skinned black characters. So, for a lot of y'all that are just like, hey, let's stick to the comics. Hey, why don't we stick to the comics? To me, and let me be very clear about this as well, I don't actually care if a lot of characters get race swapped or anything, or if they get lighter, darker. If we're being honest, look at Blade. Blade started off a little dark. Wesley came in dark. I know we don't acknowledge him, but Sticky Fingers was kind of light. I don't care. I'm fine with it. I don't care. You can have both coexist, and it's fine by me. But I think that when a character is created with a specific purpose and there's intention behind that, and especially if it has to do with their race, their gender, if that's baked into why they were created, I think that should be respected. T'Challa was created to be strong, black, intelligent, etc., etc. Like, he was the epitome of black representation, and everything else should come from that. He was positive black representation. That should be respected. It's almost like this. Imagine Wonder Woman being created to be the symbol of strong feminine, right? Strong femininity, right? You would never, ever, in nobody's right mind, see James Gunn or somebody portray Wonder Woman in a submissive, feeble, like weird, type of manner. Because it goes against why the character was created. That's not the symbol that she's made for. So, when I talk about the representation on screen, again, this is not a slight against Aaron Pierre. Brother, do your thing. Get paid, do your thing. But for people in the industry, James Gunn, I'm not going to say Kevin Feige because they do have a good representation so far, but like, this is a wake-up call. This is something to get you all aware, because I promise you this. This is why I say this is a blind spot, because James Gunn cares specifically about Superman. He grew up on him. He loved the Superman movies. He read all the comics. He's directing and writing the Superman movie. James Gunn would never make some sort of mistake like this with the Superman casting. I bet you this as well. James Gunn would never hire a brown-skinned black person to play Superman. Not that I would be mad about it, but I'm just saying he would never do that. And this is not to say that there's anything malicious on his part. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's like out there just looking only, he doesn't like black people. I'm not saying none of that negative stuff. What I'm saying is he cared so much about Superman that he wouldn't be blind to making any type of mistake like that. But when it comes to John Stewart, and I'm a little surprised as the head of DCU, you didn't know that the intention of Neil Adams was to have this character be portrayed as a darker skinned person. So you go high. Why was Aaron Pierre even in the running? Not saying he doesn't deserve his accolades. I want this brother to shine, but I'm just saying, why was he even in the running? Why didn't you just sit here and be like, nah, you know what, man, this is the one character that they really wanted him to be darker skinned. Let's get a pool of dark skinned actors. I don't know, Aldous Hodge, Trevante Rhodes. You know, like there are other actors out there that could do this. Anyway, I think that covers it all. What do you guys think about the Aaron Pierre casting? Like I said, I'm still showing up. I'm still watching. I'm still supporting the brother because this is not his fault, in my opinion. Would I have appreciated if he would have gotten it and turned it down? Absolutely. I would have appreciated it. But I'm not, bro. If you're gonna make your money. Do your thing. But I am disappointed. I'm disappointed in the industry, and I'm disappointed that this is still a thing. That's all. So anyway, you guys let me know, what do you think about the Lanterns casting? Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.